5 days left in crypto hell, and they don't know why. Other than that, let's talk about the fact if this run that we're seeing right now is a breakout or a bull trap. So I know that the crypto market had a unexpected pump. Bitcoin is doing quite nice. Altcoins are following a little bit. Is it safe to say like, yeah, there's something to be careful about, or it's already over, or is this just the beginning of the move? I'm going to give you my speculation. Apart from that, though, if you don't have money to buy when things are low, you have to know you can always shuffle your portfolio, right? Like we said in the Alpha Factory as well, there's a link down below. I posted this in December. Right, these are longer term trades that I'm talking about, but I said like, it might be a good trade to get some sides with Prime at the lower side of range 1, where it is now, and DCA a second trade if it gets into range 2. Was posted here, and if you look at sides on its Prime pair right now, it looks like this. This is absolutely fantastic. So the range 1 was here, range 2 was here, and it exactly kind of went there. It wicked a little below it, but it went there, and now it's up with, from that range already almost with 2.5x, right? And now you can choose to like, okay, let's get some, Prime back for it, for example, right? There are always coins that outperform other coins. So you can get more of these altcoins. And then later when they rise in actual value against the dollar, then you can take your profit. So this is something that you can always do, right? Whether the market is going up or down, there's always money to be made. You don't have to be a genius trader for that. There are just sometimes clear ranges, and often they play out. Sometimes they don't play out, right? That's the thing with trading. You should also be able to lose sometimes. This case was a beautiful setup. But let's talk about the market in general, because getting more coins, nice. When do we see some money for those coins, right? So is this a bull trap or a real breakout? Now, let's take a look at this. Let's start with Bitcoin. If we don't know about Bitcoin, we can talk about the altcoin market all we want. By the way, hi, happy Eastern. Welcome to the FOMO Factory. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's get into it. So if you look at Bitcoin, this doesn't look like a bull trap to me. Now, why do I say that? Bull trap is often where you see a big pump, right? And then it gets slapped back down to newer lows. However, we this time broke out of a very serious falling wedge. Falling wedges, these patterns where you have lower highs and lower lows, are often really bullish patterns. They often break to the upside. They can break to the downside, but often they break to the upside. And we have seen that multiple times in this cycle so far, right? We have seen it here. This was less clear of a falling wedge, but still we had high, low, high, low, high, low, 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 right? Was also a falling wedge, broke out, and we basically doubled in price. And we see it more and more and more, right? Where we often have a downtrend, except for this part right here, but we have a downtrend and then a huge breakout. Downtrend right here, right? This one broke down eventually, right? So you can't always win with that. But more eventually, it went up, right? That's what you do in the bull market, of course. Now, this falling wedge is something different than what we have seen for the rest of the cycle. The rest of the cycle, it was more sideways, right? It was down, but it was more sideways. This was just a clear downtrend that we have been in since January. So for 3 months, we have a falling wedge. We now broke out of it, right? We broke out of it already a while ago, kind of depending on how you draw it, right? You can draw it like this. You can say, yeah, we broke out of it a couple days ago. You can draw it like this, where you ignore this wick, but you take this one basically, and this one, and this one right here, and then we broke out of it a week ago. Nevertheless, how you draw it, you broke out, right? We broke out, Bitcoin broke out, breakout. And now it is the matter of like, okay, how far can we go? Now, I do think that in the range of, let's say between 90 and 93 is where the real big resistance on the, shorter term is sitting. But hey, after that, it's a pretty cool game for Bitcoin. Now, apart from the fact that we are now breaking out, you can see that on the daily, the stochastic RSI is getting a little oversold right here, right? It was also getting oversold right here. And what happened after that, it went down again, right? Here it was oversold. What happened after that? It went down. Here it was oversold. What happened after that? It went down. So is there a chance that Bitcoin resets in the meantime and goes down to mid/lower 80s? There's a good chance, definitely. That doesn't make this a bull trap necessarily, because nevertheless, the downtrend, the falling wedge, is broken right now, right? And again, depending on how you draw it, it takes a lot to get back into that, right? We have to go, if it happens today, at least below 82,000 bucks. Anything could happen. Man, it's crypto, it could, but it's not the most likely outcome, right? So we have a long way to go. And the longer we stay above, the harder it's going to get, because this line is moving down. So this is not going to be the typical resistance anymore, which we have seen for the last 3 months, but it could turn into support. Now, you can always do this, right? Possible, right? But we lost a resistance level. That's interesting. If we look on the slightly higher time frame, the weekly, this is where my bull cap is on. And this is where the big gains are going to be made, in my opinion. And this is, for me, the reason that this is not a bull trap. And stick with me, because if you are bearish, don't worry, I will turn you bullish right here, right? You should be able to be bullish when things are, looking like you should be bullish. If you are already bullish, great. Maybe this is some extra confirmation for your thesis in the first place. Coffee, always important. As long as you can afford coffee, there's no way you can stress in life, right? Now, why am I so bullish on the slightly longer term, the mid-long term? Well, again, same breakout basically. So that's already there. But that has more to do with a lot of charts combined, confirming each other, right? As we spoke about in the last couple of videos, what are times to be bearish and what are times to be bullish? Time to be bearish, in my opinion, right? In my experience, I've been in crypto quite a while. Not doing it perfect, but I think that from what I've learned, the time to be bearish is when everybody is euphoric, when prices are skyrocketing, right? When everything is saying oversold, and when you are in, pretty good bunch of price discovery, or when you are sitting at fat resistance, and rather all combining, and when the macro outlook is either not great or uncertain, right? These are the times where you want to be bearish / cautious. The time to be bullish, it's the other way around. It's when people in the comments tell people that they are crazy for buying because, hey, the market is down. Why would you buy something that's low? You idiot. You should buy when it's high, right? That's when you should be bullish. When things are having a better forecast, when the macro is better, when you see people slowly turn around again, right? When things are really, really, really oversold, and when everything is backing it all up. Now, in the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about that, and it could be that this is the move that I was speaking about. I was speaking about a big move, especially for the altcoin market. But as we know, it's Bitcoin first, right? Altcoins will run later, but they will run harder. But could this be the move? I'm not sure, but I think that this could be the move. All right, and let me explain why. And what is the move? The move is a couple X's in the altcoin market in general. I'm not talking about 40%. We are already there, right? I said I don't know if I said it on this channel or the Elf Factory, but I said guys, don't be surprised if you see 40% plus gains daily, right? Soon or weekly, right? That happens. And you already see, like an example with Sidus, I know I pick one outperformer, so it's a little biased, but you can see that Citus, for example, now has a weekly pump of 26%. The week before that, it was 20%. The week before that, it was 20%, right? It's up 110%. I know that only applies if you sold or if you bought the bottom, but anywhere close to this pretty obvious range, in my opinion, still gave you pretty, decent returns. And that's not a matter of picking the bottom, but that's just a matter of like, stepping into the market when everything just looks like it's too easy. And it was looking too easy. Even render, right? This whole area right here. I've said this on the Alpha Factory as well. Like, this is my DCA number 1. And if it gets here, then that's my DCA number 2. Now, from my first DCA point, let's not pick the bottom, but the close, right? Or the open, render is already up 60%. That's a high gap, right? This was pretty obvious, in my opinion. And I think that there's a lot more steam in it. It's not that you should look at this now and be like, oh, I missed it. Did you miss so far the bottom? Maybe. But doesn't really matter, right? Doesn't really matter. If you look back in the last run, for example, that render had, right? If you miss this wick, yeah, too bad. But if you bought here anywhere, right, then you still did great. So yeah, it's not a matter of like, oh yeah, I missed this, then never mind, I'm not gonna buy here. Like, it can go like whatever, just maybe better to buy anyway, right? Now, again, why am I so optimistic right now? It looks so far that my speculation is coming through a little bit, but I don't want to call it too soon, right? But like I said, the breakout is here, and the stochastic RSI on the weekly. So for the people that maybe don't know what that means, it's a momentum indicator, and it often shows you that when it is oversold, you should be a little careful, right? Because being oversold is usually still on the way down. But when it's having that uptick, then it shows you like, hey, it's reversing, right? And that's the beginning of a leg up. And now this is on the weekly, so this is a big time frame. We're not talking about a move that happens today and ends like next week. This could take 3 months to play out, this whole run up, basically. But this is also for the bigger gains, right? If we look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin is just climbing out of its oversold territory, right? Let's just check last time when it was kind of similar to being this oversold and when it was just getting out of that territory. Here, where was Bitcoin sitting? It was sitting at around 60K, 62 maybe, somewhere right there, right? But what happened during this whole move? Yeah, it went to 109, right? That was the last time, just last time random, right? What was the time before that? Well, it wasn't even that oversold as here, right? So this move, in theory, should be bigger. But the last time we were somewhat oversold and it was starting to tick up again, right? That was where Bitcoin kind of went from, yeah, depends where you take it, but mid 40s, right? Until 75K. Time before that, pretty clear, right? Was here. Even not that long as right now. Now is really, I think, a better chance than what we have seen in most of the market so far this cycle. But the last time before that was here. And what did the market do back then? When Bitcoin was just getting out of its oversold territory, it was basically sitting at 27K. And it run up to around 45, right? So Bitcoin shows that so far, the last 3 times this cycle, when it did what it did right now, it did around a 2x, right? And I'm not saying that it will do a 2x, but it's just to show you like, hey, don't be surprised if that happens. I mean, that's what happened so far, right? Like, interesting. Now, again, you don't want to just look at that and be like, oh yeah, Bitcoin going to 2x, great. Long Bitcoin, 15x leverage. You want to back up like, hey, is the rest of the market kind of confirming what we are seeing right here? And in that case, what do you want to see? You want to see the M2 being high, right? I think we have all seen the M2 charts lately. crazy, almost at new all-time highs. And Bitcoin has a lag of 90 or 110 days. Usually, it's around 3 months, which makes a lot of sense because most of these moves right here, they play out over a course of 3 months, right? From being oversold to overbought. So could the next 3 months for crypto be, how do you say this, really surprisingly insane? I wouldn't be surprised. Like, that sounds a little weird maybe, but it could do way better than you think. Way better, right? What else do you need to see? Again, sentiment needs to suck. Otherwise, you cannot run hard. Well, I think that we have seen lately that the sentiment was people being very bearish, calling for 50K Bitcoin, calling for altcoins to go to zero, never coming back. Everything is dead. Ethereum dead. Yada yada. That's what you need before you get a big pump. We got that. We can check that off, right? People gave up on it, so that's beautiful. Now, what else do we need to see? Well, we don't need it, but this definitely helps. Bitcoin and altcoins are paired against the dollar. And if you want a strong Bitcoin or a strong altcoin, you want it against a weak dollar. Now, the dollar was incredibly strong. What happened lately to the dollar, though? It is tanking, right? So everything that we see on the Bitcoin chart, on the altcoin chart, gets such a fucking huge confirmation by the dollar. Like, if you look at this, you'd be like, oh, damn, it makes a lot of sense now, right? The dollar is really, really, really weak right now. And with really weak right now, I mean, all the pumps that we have seen so far in this cycle by the altcoin market especially happened during this phase and happened during this phase, right? If we overlay the altcoin market, you can see that this was the altcoin market's first run, basically, and this was the second run. That's because the dollar was so weak. Yeah, when it started to recover, altcoins just flew. Now the dollar is a lot weaker. That's beautiful. Dollar also completely in big time frame oversold territory. Yeah, this gives me a lot of confidence. This gives me a lot of confidence. Matter of fact, it is as weak as it was in March 2022. Going back to the altcoin market, March 2022, that wasn't even the bull market for altcoins yet, right? That started in December 2022, right? So the dollar, when it comes to altcoins, it's now looking better than what it did so far this entire bull market. Interesting. Together with the M2, together with everything being oversold on the higher term timeframes. Now, we also, again, have the Fed that slowed down QT so much that you can basically say that it stopped. It didn't stop really yet, but it's really close to that, right? I think they, how much was it? I forgot. Fuck, doesn't matter. It got slowed down a lot. Now, sorry, I didn't do my research before I was thinking about that. We also have the forecast that QT is probably going to stop somewhere mid this year. Now, again, if you overlay the whole Fed balance sheet on alt season, is just what I call it, you can see that when we don't have an alt season, it's when we have QT every single time, right? Here's not an alt season, it's because we have QT. Here we don't have alt seasons because we have QT. Now QT is likely to stop. Take everything that I already said, add this on top, and it makes so much sense why every chart is looking how it looks, in my opinion, right? It's not that we should look at one chart and be like, oh yeah, this should make me bullish or bearish, but everything is saying, this looks good. This looks really good. All right, we should do something with that. Apart from that, and the potential money printing that might come, right? That will come eventually. The question is when. So new money will flow in the market. But apart from that, we already have a lot of money in the market. People seem to forget about that often. But if you look at the total crypto market, it looks like this, right? The crypto market is pretty much sitting at November 2021 highs, right? The all-time high of the last cycle. It's pretty much still sitting there. It's holding on very well, actually. Now, if we, I can draw this a little bit, whatever. If we take that in consideration, then you might be like, okay, money printing will pump the shit out of our bags, but let's not forget about the current money, right? But where is it sitting? Because we see here that there's a lot of money. So where is it? I think a lot of money is sitting in Bitcoin, in stables, and in high caps. I don't think that's what it is, right? If you look at the Bitcoin dominance, it dominates the rest of the market with 64%. So 64% of everything in crypto is in Bitcoin. Right now, we know that the shift, right, the money flow always happens eventually, right? Where you have a period where people, they put their money from Bitcoin into altcoins. They put their money from altcoins into Bitcoin. They put their money from Bitcoin into altcoins. They put the money from altcoins into Bitcoin. And eventually they will put their money from Bitcoin into altcoins, right? What's the narrative? I don't know. Again, could be QT, could be Ethereum having an upgrade, could be a thousand reasons, right? But it will happen eventually. And that's where alt season is also going to take place. Now, apart from that, I know people are kind of sick of hearing alt season because it didn't happen yet and it was supposed to maybe happen in March. I don't know, right? Like, fuck it, and it maybe happens a couple months later. Like, the best thing is to expect that it is going to happen, right? You don't want to be like a lot of people were here, be like, oh yeah, Bitcoin is indeed outperforming. Okay, let me put it all on Bitcoin, and then having a full alt season, right? I notice that a lot of people are having that epiphany now. Well, you should have kind of had it over here or over here at the breakout, right? But here, I feel like, yeah, maybe we do go here. I don't know, but it seems like the risk reward, it's getting less and less worth it right now, in my opinion, right? Unless you just need a 2x in this market and stick with Bitcoin at all times. But also the Bitcoin dominance, apart from the fact that an alt season might occur right now or later, the Bitcoin dominance is sitting at really oversold levels right now, right? And it could stay there for a while. But whenever this goes down, that's going to be the hard pump where altcoins have that turn, right? Now, again, where else is the money sitting? In stables, right? So how does the stable market look like? Well, if we go to the biggest stable coin, we can look at USDT. And how is USDT looking? Well, this looks kind of confirming to what we already discussed, right? It's sitting at horizontal resistance. It's sitting at diagonal resistance. And also the stochastic RSI for USDT dominance now has turned over to the downside, right? Last time it turned over to the downside was here, and it fell from about where we are sitting right now to like 3.7%. And I'm not saying that it will get there, but I try to find a reason why it won't. I don't really see it, actually, right? We were more oversold right now than what we were over here, and for longer. So yeah, I don't know, man. Another big stablecoin is USDC, and if you combine USDT and USDC, then we're getting this chart. Another confirmation, right? Resistance, Fed resistance, same as here, same as the support here and here, same as the resistance here, right? And it happens that we got rejected there already. Plus, again, this is pointing down. Here, when we got rejected, this was also pointing down. And look what happened, right? So it's confirmation on confirmation. Now, again, also, where else is the money? So this is all money that can go to your altcoin bags, right? Money from Bitcoin, money from the stable market, money that's getting printed in the future, Then where else is it sitting? Where else could we get it from? High caps, real high. And I mean top 10, right? Excluding Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDC, and USDT. So that leaves Cardano, Solana, XRP, Doge, that kind of stuff, right? BNB. So how are the lower cap altcoins doing against these high caps? Therefore, we have this chart. And this chart is saying the same thing. It's getting a really ridiculous thing right here, right? So this is how the low caps do against the high caps. Now, the only thing for me is that this was huge support in the bottom of the bear market, basically. It's the last time we were this low, right? So again, we have a better opportunity right now than what we had in August until December last year. Way better. And you'll know how hard we went up during this small piece of pump right here. So therefore, don't underestimate the pump, saw? It could be crazy. It could be, I'm not saying it will, but it could be really, really, really crazy. And it could definitely be that people highly underestimate this, right? And I think this all had to do with the fact that, which country it was that kind of accepted the Trump tariffs? I don't know, it wasn't the biggest country, right? Let alone if we get some good China news or whatever, right? Like, this could be good. So what I'm seeing on this chart so far is that this is also in a big falling wedge, and we are still sitting at resistance, right? Now, what could this be right here? And again, it's all speculation. I don't know. Shit. Okay, it's very, I don't know, right? But hey, if a lot of charts tell you the same thing and the sentiment and the background, you should be able to find a, pretty decent conclusion, I think. What this is telling me, again, not that I know, but what this is telling me is that this is a falling wedge, of course, right? Falling wedges are eventually very, very, very bullish. And the longer they take, the more bullish they turn out to be, right? It's not perfect, but let me get rid of that. And this is kind of it right now. This one also started at the beginning of January. So this is a 4-month falling wedge. And the breakout could be huge, right? Here we had a falling wedge also, right? And that breakout was pretty big. Again, this was from the bear market lows until the highs, right? Like that was a 20x run for a lot of altcoins. Yeah, we're sitting barely at the same level right now, right? The only thing that makes me a little cautious in the short term with this thing is that it didn't hit my green line. And if it doesn't hit my line, then everything is off the table, of course. No, but it didn't hit this line. Doesn't exactly have to get there, but that would have been the perfect scenario, of course, for the biggest gains as well. Plus, on the daily, it is getting a little bit towards the oversold area right now. Overbought, sorry. Could it be that we get a rejection here right now and that it has one more attempt on the daily to go down to get us into that green box, maybe at the lower side of it, and then goes up and make sure that we get that big breakout? Possible. The thing that makes me think like it could also happen right now is that if I look at the weekly, it is now also oversold on the big time frame, but this is also already pointing up, right? So this is interesting. Like we now have 3 green weeks in a row. I mean, so far, right? It's Monday, so who knows how it ends. The last time we had that was here though, right? In November, December, one of the most bullish periods in the last year that we had. So yeah, and the cool thing is that pump right here, which was quite big, happened during the fact that we were already overbought, and now we come from a way better entry. There are like 1,000 other charts that I can show you, but this looks to me like you can no longer ignore this. If you are now bearish, then what the fuck, right? Like this is all looking really good. So based on this chart, this has nothing to do with money. This is basically, is money gonna flow from XRP to AVAX or from Solana to whatever, right? Like that's this chart basically. Now, that should be a good one. That should be a real good one, right? That should be epic, right? Because you have to understand that. Let me get a example actually right here. So if we go to CoinGecko, stick with me. I know these videos are long, but what the fuck? You can also not watch this. I don't know. If you look at, for example, XRP, right? It has a market cap of $120 billion. Now, if we go to the rest of the top 100, right? For example, Immutable X, right? It has a market cap of not even $1 billion, right? So XRP is like, what, 140 times as big as Immutable, which kind of means that only 1% from XRP into Immutable already more than 2x's IMX, right? That's kind of the thing. Let alone if you are in lower caps than these. That's insane. So I do think though that although I said for a long time, hey guys, it's time to play on defense and to be in the lower risk coins, which is still a good idea. It's not that bad of an idea to take a little more risk, right? And I'm not talking about the $5 million market cap coins, right? These are always risky as fuck. But you don't, I think, for the coming run, make the most gains by being in Bitcoin, XRP, Solana, right? You can maybe better look a little below that and be like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'm go with an AVAX. Maybe I'll go with a whatever the hell you have right here, right? Because it looks like the risk is getting less right now. There's more confirmation at this moment. If we look at Ethereum dominance, it bounces off the major, huge cycle low where it was in the last cycle before it went into a bull market. Again, I'm not saying that it will go do the same thing, but hey, if you want to bet on Ethereum anywhere, then this is by very fucking far the best place ever in this whole cycle, right? If we look at the altcoin dominance, right? So basically also alt season or no alt season, you can see that we are bouncing from the same level as where we bounced off in June 2023. Right, and June 2023, that was the start of not an alt season, but a pretty decent alt run, right? We are now sitting at a potential double bottom, maybe even a triple, if you can call it like that. Also, stochastic RSI on the weekly ticking up right now. Again, I don't want to call it all too soon, okay? It might be that all of this does this once more, right? And then has its move. Could be, right? So don't blame me if that happens, though. But I am saying, like, man, if you ever look at risk versus reward, then this is the best moment in this cycle by far, right? So that's looking beautiful right now. Yeah, I cannot explain. Like, if you look at altcoins against Ethereum, though, you can see that altcoins are doing really well against Ethereum, right? And are also pretty overbought on the weekly. Now, again, here they were also pretty overbought on the weekly, and it went on and on and on. Eventually, I do think that Ethereum is going to get on a huge run, and also, what we have mentioned 2 times before right now, this is the Bitcoin dominance minus the stable market dominance divided by the dollar dominance. So this is basically how are stable coins flowing into Bitcoin and altcoins. And that was sitting at a level where we were since January 2023. That was the bear market low. And we just got there again. And I do think that a bounce from this level will cause one of the biggest runs in this cycle. Again, the last run that we had during the end of last year, you probably remember how great altcoins did for that period. We are now coming from lower, right? Things are now looking better in any way. So yeah, I absolutely love what I see right here. If you look how altcoins are doing against the S&P, also interesting, but I can go on, right? But it's holding pretty decently. Also, every fucking chart again. So yeah, to answer, is this the beginning of a huge breakout or a bear trap? In the short term, we can go down, definitely. I think that a couple things in the short term actually have to cool off a little bit, because we just have a couple, days slash weeks where the market is doing quite well, right? And yeah, it has to cool off. If you look at certain altcoins, also, if you again look back on a render, yeah, from absolute low until where we are right now, it did 80%, right, on a high cap coin. Like, let it cool off. Let the stochastic RSI on the daily go down a little bit. Let it find some support somewhere. And that would be the dip to buy. Don't usually buy dip and buy that dip and buy that dip, but the next big dip is the one to really buy, in my opinion. I think that Tau, I'm doing more research on that lately, and although I have a little trouble understanding the project perfectly. It's technical as hell. But I think that this could be a winner, by the way. But yeah, in the short term, can we go down? Definitely. Let it all cool off a little bit. Coins had a really good run from their lows already. On the like the weekly charts and everything that I just shown, I'm pretty confident to say that no, this is probably not a bull trap. This is probably going to be not even a breakout, but a reversal is going to start in the market right now. And I think that if you feel sidelined, it's not too late to DCA. Are we up 50, up to 100% from the absolute bottom? Sure, but again, if you look at certain coins, right? If you missed this bottom for Chain GPT at 3.5 cents, but you bought it at 7, for example, hey man, you still made an 8x. Like, doesn't really matter, right? If you already have a position like me and you feel like, man, when to deploy my next cash, I think give it a week or two. Maybe we're dipped out by then, and that dip would be the one for buying, in my opinion. So yeah, really excited for what's about to come, guys. Really excited. I want to wrap it up. Also, my single "Blame Yourself" is releasing Friday on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, etc., etc. There's a pre-save link down below where you can pre-save it on Spotify, free, of course. It already adds it into your playlist once it comes out. And if you do that, you have a chance of winning $25. I can see your email if you do that you use for Spotify. So make sure that you are still active on that one. But I think that's a great song and you should hear it. So do check that out. For now, let me know down below, how are you prepared? I want to really know how you are looking at this market. Look, I don't want to be too excited when everything is green for a while. But again, we have just seen the charts, right? Can no longer ignore this. So thanks for watching, guys. Take care. Have a good coming couple months.